Hi, and welcome to the Let's Talk Thyroid podcast, where we discuss different aspects of living a healthy thyroid lifestyle, positively and practically, so that you can really thrive and not just survive. So join me, your host, Annabelle Bateman, and Let's Talk Thyroid. Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the Let's Talk Thyroid podcast. This is the very first episode that is also being released on my brand new YouTube channel, Let's Talk Thyroid, as a vodcast or video podcast. So you can actually watch me interviewing my guest, which today is Brad Yates, and I'll tell you a little bit about him in a minute. If you're listening to this in the normal audio platform, that is fabulous. It would be helpful if you subscribe, whether it's to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, what have you. And if you're watching it on YouTube, please do subscribe. Just hit that subscribe button and the little bell. I have a whole 7 YouTube subscribers so far. So perhaps if you're audio listening, you could head on over to YouTube, search for Let's Talk Thyroid and subscribe. At the moment, I think 5 of those 7 are my family, so which I really do appreciate, but would be nice to have some others there as well. I thought this would be the perfect launch into a video version of the podcast because we're talking about a stress relief technique called emotional freedom technique or tapping. And it actually does help to have a visual when we get to the end of the interview and we're actually doing a tapping sequence. So I thought this was the perfect episode to do as a video. Now, Brad is a world expert in tapping or the emotional freedom technique, and we'll get into that. I'll let him explain that much better in the interview. But essentially, it is a little bit like acupuncture without the needles. So Brad's known internationally for his really humorous and kind and caring approach to tapping and to helping people relieve that stress and really get the best out of their lives. He's even written a children's book on the topic. He's co-authored an adult book. He's been on documentaries, and he's got well over 1,000 videos on his own YouTube channel, which is called Tap with Brad. And I think that those videos have been viewed something like over 32 million times. So when you can kind of compare that to my, 7 YouTube subscribers, I know there's many more of you that listen to the audio podcast, but I was really thrilled when Brad agreed to come onto the show and to share his love for his craft, his science. There's a lot of science behind tapping, but to share the tool, I guess, that he has to really make the world a better place. I was really excited that he agreed to come onto the show. So I hope you really enjoy either listening and or watching. I do encourage you to probably watch the last of 10 to 15 minutes of the show, even if you listen to it on the audio, because it is, I think it'll just, if you're new to tapping, it will make a lot more sense. Well, welcome, Brad, to the Let's Talk Thyroid podcast. I'm really excited to have you here on the show today.
Well, thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. And look, I came across you a few years ago through Jesse Reimers, and you weren't my first introduction to tapping, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And I'll let you introduce what tapping is in a minute to my audience. But yeah, I've followed along a lot of your videos over time, and yeah, it really benefited from it. So when I saw that you were open to doing some podcast interviews, I was really excited because I thought, here is an expert in a tool that can be really used to help manage stress and a whole lot of other things I'm sure we're going to get into that will be really helpful for those of us with thyroid issues. Often have issues around stress and a whole lot of other things. So I thought you would be perfect to get on the show. So I really appreciate your time today.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm always happy to introduce this to folks who are new to it and to share it in different ways with folks who may be familiar with it but haven't done it in a certain way.
So maybe we'll start from the beginning. So what is tapping? What is tapping? Because I was talking about it with my kids last night. I've got 3 teenage boys, and they've said, and one
all
of them,
kinds of tap in there.
Anyway, let's just say that they weren't particularly responsive to. They were having a go at me. Let's just say that. So tell me about tapping. What is it?
Right. So tapping, The other name that a lot of people know it by is EFT, which is short for emotional freedom techniques. But a lot of us simply call it tapping because it is quite literally a process of tapping with our fingertips on key points, primarily around the face and torso. And for those of you who are new to it or are teenagers, yes, it sounds a little goofy at first. There's a really good reason why we do it. So it is primarily a stress relief technique, and it's a quick, simple way of reducing stress. It's based on acupuncture. So for thousands of years in Chinese medicine, they've said there's a flow of energy through the body along these pathways that are called meridians. And when this energy is flowing naturally, we experience our natural state of health and well-being. When the energy gets stuck, we don't feel so good. And then when we don't feel so good, we don't think as clearly, we don't make the best choices, all kinds of consequences from that. So in traditional Chinese medicine, the doctor would stick needles in these key points to stimulate that healthy flow of energy. And we're just going to be using our fingertips to tap those points. We have modern research showing that it is an effective stress relief technique. Right near you down in Gold Coast, my friend Dr. Peter Stapleton, has done fMRI studies showing that brain activity, you can see where the brain activity changes from the tapping.
Yeah,
so
wow.
Not only do we have people saying, I feel better or I feel different, it's like, okay, but we have actual scientific machines that say, yep, yeah, something's really happening there.
Yeah, that's fabulous. I know. Well, I've actually done some one-on-one sessions with Dr. Stapleton a long time ago.
Awesome.
She was probably my very first introduction to tapping was through my naturopath, and then I really don't even know how I got on to Peter, but probably was about 10. I tried to find my notes. I couldn't find it. It was probably about 10 years ago, but. Yeah, so I knew, and now I follow her, so I know that she's amazing. Does lots of incredible research, doesn't she?
Yeah, first time I went to Brisbane was because I'd gone down to speak at her conference in Gold Coast.
Ah, great. Yeah. So I think for those people that are a little maybe skeptical or it sounds a bit woo, to know that there's some really fabulous research. And I think it shows reduced cortisol too. Is that right?
That's one of the other big studies that my friend Dr. Dawson Church did first, and then PETA has replicated that study where the subjects using the tapping, their cortisol levels dropped significantly, some as much as 50%.
Wow.
And the results were so shocking in the first test that was done, the lab technicians thought there was something wrong with the machine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the tapping thing couldn't have reduced cortisol that much. They recalibrated the machines, ran it again, and in fact, that is it. So cortisol being one of the stress hormones, so it's a great indicator of how much stress we're experiencing. And then as we see it go down, a great indicator of how much we're relieving our stress.
Yeah, that's really impressive, isn't it? And I mean, I guess any of these modalities, when we know they work experientially, they work, but it is nice when you get that research.
Right. It's very easy for people to write it off and say, oh, it's a placebo, it's this or that. And, hey, placebos are great because what we really care about is the result.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I don't care if it's the drug or the process or whatever. If I'm getting the result, if I'm feeling better, great. But a lot of people say, well, it's just positive thinking that people are saying the tapping is feeling better. It's like, well, okay, the positive thinking isn't making the machines read it differently.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And different personalities. I mean, I'm totally fine with if it works, it works. My husband's an engineer and he needs to see the studies, exactly. So we're all different, So it's nice that this is a space where there's both.
Tell him that the founder of EFT, Gary Craig, was an engineer. So
okay, all right, I'll do that.
Has a degree in engineering from Stanford University. So
that should be enough. Okay, so tapping is basically acupuncture without the needles in a really simplified sense. Is that right?
That's one of the nicknames that people have given it. It's as a way of explaining what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Using our fingertips instead of needles for those people who are not excited about needles.
Yeah, and maybe not sticking them in yourself either. Tapping is a little bit easier to do for yourself than acupuncture, I would think.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So tell me, the other name is the emotional freedom technique. So can you just explain a little bit more about what's behind that?
Right. So originally, the tapping in this process was first discovered by a psychologist named Dr. Roger Callahan. And he helped a woman with a water phobia. He was learning about acupressure and asked her, so what is the physical symptoms when you have this fear of water? And she said, well, I get this knot in my stomach. So he had learned that the meridian point for the stomach meridian is right under the eye. That's one of the points that's stimulated to ease stomach issues. So he just tapped under her eye for a moment, and not only did the knot in her stomach go away, but the fear of water went away. She was able to go and splash water in her face and felt no discomfort, which had been so terrifying for her for years. So he started experimenting and using different acupuncture points for different emotional issues. And he called this process thought field therapy. But it involved figuring out which points to tap for which issues. And one of his first students was Gary Craig. And Gary, thinking like an engineer, it's like, let's see what's most efficient.
Right. Yep.
Found that rather than taking all this time to figure out which points to tap, if we just there's only 8 points. So if we just tap all of them in a row, then we cover all the bases. And it actually takes less time to tap all the points than to try to figure out which points to tap. And so he called this streamlined version emotional freedom techniques. And it's a process of giving ourselves emotional freedom because we feel stuck with our emotions. Those uncomfortable emotions like stress and anger and fear and guilt and shame. And we just feel like we are trapped by these. And the tapping relieves that feeling and gives us the freedom to experience the emotions that we want.
So it's about moving sort of from a negative emotional state to a positive one, or just to a less negative.
And I try to avoid the term negative emotions.
Okay.
To me, there's no negative emotions. They all serve a purpose. There are uncomfortable emotions.
Okay. Yeah.
And but like anger, to me, it's like a smoke detector. Really good thing to have. There's nothing negative about having a smoke detector. When a fire is going on in your house and the sound goes off, you don't go, that stupid sound. I hate that sound so much. It saved your life. Yeah. Likewise, anger and fear, all of these emotions are there to protect us. What happens, though, is that very often, based on old misunderstandings from our past, based on programming, we experience these in an extreme way, in an unhelpful way. It's like the smoke detector going off over nothing. We've all had the experience of, burning something in the kitchen and the smoke alarm goes off. It's like, no, there's no fire.
Yeah.
So we may experience extreme emotions, or it may not even feel extreme, but it may be subtle, but it's there enough to stop us from feeling as good as we can feel. And stopping us from doing what we can do to make our lives better. So it's the tapping helps us process the emotion. It's not a matter of bad feeling, because we don't want to just turn off the sound on the smoke detector. We want to deal with what the problem is. All those emotions, they're saying there's something that I have to address. So this helps us process that and figure, okay, what is it that I need to deal with? What am I angry about? How am I going to solve that? So that we can turn the smoke alarm off. We can turn off that sound and then handle what's going on without experiencing the discomfort.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. That makes sense. Yeah. And I think, for a lot of my audience, people, look, it's probably not just those with thyroid issues. We're all kind of living these days with a chronic level of stress, aren't we? That sort of just low grade hum of stress all the time.
Ambient stress is what I call it.
Ambient stress. Yeah, that's a great way of,
because we're in the information age. We're constantly being bombarded with news and unpleasant situations and things on Facebook where somebody is making some political comment and then the angry comments about it. And there's just all of this upset.
Yeah.
And we pick up at least some of it, even if we go, I'm not on my phone, I'm not on Facebook, we're around people who are. And
Yeah.
so we pick up on that energy because everything is energy and we're connected. So yeah, there's always some level of ambient stress, if not really upsetting stress. And for anyone with a thyroid issue or any other kind of physical issue, stress aggravates that. Stress, that's why the tapping can be so beneficial with so many things. And I can totally understand someone saying, stress isn't my issue, I have a thyroid issue. It's like, well, every issue that we experience that causes us discomfort is either caused by or worsened by stress. So when we can have a simple tool that relieves that stress, that has all kinds of benefits. One, so when you're dealing with whatever symptoms might be bothering you, there's the uncomfortable physical symptoms, and then chances are there's also a lot of emotional stuff going on. About, oh, I'm so frustrated about this. I'm angry that I'm having this again. This means that I'm not going to be able to help my son with this project, and so I feel guilty about that. So we're bombarded with all these emotions about the physical discomfort. So now we've got two different issues going on. So even if the tapping helps to relieve the emotional issues, and it's like, okay, I still have the physical issues, but at least that's all I'm dealing with. And the body has remarkable abilities to heal. So when it's not so busy with all of that emotional stuff, then it has more bandwidth in terms of healing. And so our bodies can do what it needs to do to be able to resolve the physical stuff that's going on as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good. I was about to ask, can you use tapping to relieve physical things as well? I mean, obviously that's an indirect benefit. If you're dealing with the stress, the body can heal, but can you use tapping for physical issues as well?
Yeah. The catchphrase for EFT is try it on everything.
Okay.
And there are all kinds of stories of people using tapping to reduce physical pain, chronic pain. I remember someone talking about having a rash, and they started tapping, and they said, while I was tapping, I could see the rash dissipating.
Wow. Wow.
So there are lots of different examples with a lot of different medical ailments where people have found that tapping has been tremendously beneficial in relieving the symptoms.
And while we're talking thyroid, are you aware of any specific sort of thyroid stories?
Not off the top of my head. I know that I have heard of that. I can't cite it at the moment.
No, that's okay.
I should have done my homework, Annabelle.
No.
Oh, let me give you a list of all the different.
No, there may not be. It's all good. I was just.
I'm pretty sure that I have seen in lists of case studies.
Right. Yeah. Well, given it's a pretty common thing to seem to go wrong in the body, I'd be surprised if there wasn't in some way. But I think what I find curious is, because the thyroid affects pretty much every part of your body, and stress, and you've got all the things that trigger it, and it's a big complex web of symptoms and implications. So that's where I think there's so many different ways that tapping could be used, and the obvious one is stress. But I suppose I'm just curious, and I don't know, and you might not know either, but can you tap to improve your thyroid function? I wonder how that would play out. And I would think that if anyone's going to try to do that, you would want to make sure that you're getting your thyroid levels tested, because I know from my experience with other modalities that you think they're not going to work, but they do. And so it is important. I'm a big advocate for getting your thyroid levels tested on a fairly regular basis anyway, so that you know what's going on. And if if what you're doing is working, or if it's not, you can get things changed. So you never know, you might actually see some changes in the blood test.
And that would be a great way of confirming it, because just like with the fMRI studies or the cortisol studies, there is a part of us that is used to having stress or whatever the thyroid issue might be, and might deny the benefits. It's like we may get some relief, but say, no, it feels pretty much the same. Well, the blood test seems to differ.
Yeah. And if that might mean, I suppose, well, I think apart from confirming if it's working, it could also mean that if people are on medication, they might need to adjust levels of medication. So I think that's where definitely, if you're going to try this on that, get your levels tested, work with your doctor, because these things work. It was similar to, when I started using essential oils, I thought, they're not going to work. And because I do get my blood levels tested regularly, I could see, okay, maybe things are changing a bit. And so that's probably why, and it's the ex-lawyer in me that likes to be very protective. Do your homework, take responsibility, get yourself checked.
Absolutely.
Work with your doctors. Yeah.
Absolutely. And certainly there's the potential for enhancing thyroid function. I think it was fairly early on when the pandemic started that I created a video called Boost Your Immune System. Because stress hampers our immune system. Stress can lower your thyroid function. So if you can relieve stress, that would naturally then create the space for enhancing your thyroid function.
Yeah.
Whether the tapping is working specifically on the thyroid or just clearing away the stuff that get in the way, who's to say?
Yeah.
And it's not fully known what the physical function, the physical process is of the tapping. We have theories, whether it is this meridian system and we're clearing the meridians, whether it is a matter of calming down the amygdala, and whether it's the polyvagal system, the vagus nerve that runs up and down the spine, which regulates emotions. There are all kinds of things. It may be all of these, it may be just one of these, but what the actual function is, we're not sure, but we see the results happening. So what's possible in terms of physical healing as well as emotional healing, who can say?
Yeah. Yeah. And who knows in the end which part of it has what it's done. But as we said before, I guess you get the results, happy days.
Right. If you enjoy a chocolate cake, is it the sugar? Is it flour?
Yeah. It doesn't matter, does it?
Is it what?
No. And look, I'm a big advocate for holistic health. It is our body, mind, spirit. It is what we eat. It is the way we think. It is the way we sleep. It is, if we need to take medication, it's that too. Like, it doesn't have to be either or. It's the whole picture. And so I often say, I don't know what one thing has improved my thyroid health. I think it's the package. And who knows exactly which part, but I think it's the whole. And so it's probably, this would be the same. Does it really matter? It's the whole. Right. Yeah.
Right. Do I need to know which part of the chocolate cake I like? Because then I'm going to get rid of all the other parts.
Yeah, exactly. No,
the whole package works.
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to thyroid health, like I said, I guess there's that stress, is a pretty obvious thing that pretty much we all deal with. And stress, and particularly in, the form of, maybe trauma or past abuse, those sorts of things can actually trigger, or can trigger autoimmune. I'm talking about autoimmune thyroid, I suppose. I've got Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune underactive thyroid, or you've got, there's different kinds of thyroid issues, but the most common is autoimmune. So that's that whole immune system that you were talking about before, and stress and abuse can trigger that.
Right.
Yeah.
And you look at Louise Hay's book about the body and how, she'll list all of these different physical ailments and say, well, it's caused by this emotion, or it's caused by this this traumatic event, because our body mind may come up with an illness as a defense mechanism against something traumatic that has happened. And sometimes we may hold on to that, saying, I don't know how to be safe without this. And after we've had it, if we've been experiencing it for quite some time, I don't know who I would be without this. And that's not to say, so it's all in your mind, you're just making it up in order to protect yourself. Not saying that at all. What we always want to look at is where there may be some of that, because sometimes we can make our bodies feel worse as a way of trying to protect ourselves. And so we want to do what we can to clear out the fears that trigger that make things worse than they need to be. And then we find whatever ways we can to handle whatever is there.
Do you think you need to be consciously aware of what those things are, or can you clear things that are just sitting there in the subconscious? Because we're not always aware with what's...
We're not always aware. Yeah. So one of the analogies I use is, imagine you've got your trash can in your kitchen, and at the end of the week you tie up the bag and you take it out to the garbage. You don't have to, when you go out to the big garbage can outside, you don't have to then open the bag and take everything out and go, oh, here's the milk carton I finished yesterday. Here's the egg carton I finished 3 days ago. No, you don't need to know what all that stuff is. You just take it out, go back in your kitchen, and your kitchen smells fine. And you don't have to have analyzed everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's helpful. It's like if you get back into the kitchen, it's like something still smells wrong. What was in there that that I may not have fully addressed? But no, oftentimes we'll be tapping along and not having to know specifically what it is. It's great if we do, because then we can target it. But it's like sort of taking a pain reliever.
Yeah, it's broad spectrum.
We don't necessarily have to know what's going on, but it's helping us with that, with what's going on there.
So, Brad, tell me, how can most people access tapping? Like, do you work? I know, can you work one-on-one with someone? Do you just follow along videos? Or like, how do people? I mean, we're going to do some tapping in a minute, and people can obviously tap along to that. But if people wanted to find out more about all of this, how do they do that? And who do they go to?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, after the demonstration we're going to do, for those of you who are new to tapping, you'll know how to do it. It's a very simple process, and you can do it on your own, so that when you're feeling stressed, you can simply tap. I'll take you through the very simple version, where the wording is very simple, where you simply say, even though I have this issue, I love and accept myself. And you just repeat what the issue is on each of the points. Then we'll go into the way I like to do it, where it's a very intuitive process. Because when I first do it that way, if someone finds one of my videos and they hear me doing this train of thought kind of process, people might get the idea, oh, tapping's really complicated. You have to come up with all of this wording. You have to know what to say. No. The tapping, even without saying any words, the tapping will help to reduce your stress. So the wording is designed to help bring up whatever else might be underneath that, to clear that out. But if you're already feeling stress, you don't really need words to find out.
Don't add to the stress about worrying about the words. Is that what?
Exactly. You want to relieve stress, not add to it. But and of course, if you want to tap, even though I'm saying the words wrong, I choose to love and accept myself, because you can't get it wrong.
Okay.
Really, you can't get it wrong, and so.
Well, that's good to know, because I think a lot of us are kind of perfectionists that end up with these issues. Yes. So we kind of can be worried about getting things wrong or making sure we're doing things really right. So it's good to know.
And I have a video on perfectionism. So
good. Well, I'll find it and I'll link it in the show notes.
There you do. Just make sure you do it right, okay, Annabelle?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll make sure I get it all right.
And that's why I first created my first tapping video, was knowing that some people might hesitate to do tapping because they won't know what to say. So I'll just make a video that people can tap along with. And I only intended to do that one video. It wasn't until like 6 months later I thought, well, maybe I could do another one. And now I have over 1,000 videos.
Yeah,
So
wow.
there's
You've got an
on all kinds of
incredible resource. Yeah, incredible resource on your YouTube.
So if you want to tap and you don't want to think about it, just go onto YouTube. And I have 1,000 videos. I have a lot of colleagues who have made videos. There's whatever's bothering you, there's a tap for that. So just go on YouTube and do it that way. For more complicated things, yeah, find a practitioner. I do private sessions. I do group sessions. There's a lot of people who work in different ways. So there are all kinds of different ways to use it. But certainly, as I said, in a few minutes after we go through this process, you'll know the basics and you'll be able to use it for yourself when you're feeling upset about something.
Excellent. So will we dive right in?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So what I'm going to ask you to do is go ahead and taking the fingertips of your index and middle finger on your dominant hand, go ahead and gently tap on the opposite hand, on the side of your hand. So right where you would break boards with a karate chop, and right between your wrist and your pinky. And it's just a very gentle tapping motion. This is a self-care technique. Don't hurt yourself. Just a light tapping motion. And what we'll do as we're tapping on the side of the hand is the setup. So we'll say, just for instance, if I'm experiencing stress, if I'm not sure what it is, it may be I'm really angry at somebody or I'm upset about this, but we'll just for right now say this stress. So we would tap on the side of the hand and say, even though I feel this stress, I choose to love and accept myself. And when we do that, we want to rate the stress on a scale of 0 to 10. So is it 10, I'm like stressed beyond belief? Or is it, 3, I'm kind of bothered? And we might also notice what physical symptoms we feel. So, I'm stressed, it's an 8, and I feel this tension in my shoulders. So just like taking the blood test for the thyroid levels, it's allowing ourselves to get an idea of, okay, where am I when I start? So we'd repeat on the side of the hand 3 times, even though I feel the stress, I love and accept myself. Next, we'll tap the eyebrow point. So right at the beginning of your eyebrow, right near the center of your face, and gently tap in there. And generally we tap 5 to 10 times, but it's not an exact number. And depending on the phrases that we say, it might be longer than 10 taps. So right there, tapping there, and we'd say, all this stress. Then we'd follow the eyebrow to the side of the eye and tapping the corner of the eye, all this stress. Right under the middle of your eye, just above your cheek, and say, all this stress. Right under your nose, just above your upper lip, all this stress. Right below your lower lip, just above your chin, all this stress. And go to the collarbone. And so if you feel your collarbones just about come together, there's a little bit of a U shape at the base of your throat. And you can go ahead and make a fist and tap right where the collarbones just about meet and say, all this stress. The next point is about 4 inches below your armpit. That's right about bra strap level. And I'm sure even the guys listening can figure out where that is. Tapping there, all this stress. And finally, the top of the head. So just tap in with all your fingertips around the crown of your head. Say, all this stress. And then take a deep breath. And then you would check again and say, okay, scale of 0 to 10, how much stress do I feel? And we, check in with how your shoulders are. It's like, oh, my shoulders feel more loose. And maybe it's gone from an 8 down to a 3. For some people, it may go from an 8 to a 0 like that. For some, it may go from an 8 to a 7.95.
Right.
But if you've been experiencing it for a while, a 7.95 feels a lot better than an 8. And often what happens is it's like peeling the layers of the onion. So as we're tapping, you may get an idea of, oh, and I know what I'm stressed out about. And it's this. And as we tap through, we may realize it's not even really that. It's this other thing that happened 10 years ago that this situation right now is reminding me of, and I never resolved that. And you keep going, and you may find it's this thing that happened to me when I was 3 years old. And as we tap through, we start to get resolution on these things that we've been stopping ourselves from, because part of our mind says it's not safe to deal with this. And so the stress comes up like an electric fence telling us, don't go there. And so we back off from that. And as we're tapping, we're reducing the stress so that we feel this emotional freedom to look at what's there and resolve those things that have been a problem in the past.
Yeah, so I can see that, like, if that was digging up some really significant things, and that might be where you would benefit from working with a practitioner. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes. There are some places we should not go on our own.
Yeah. I'm just, I'm thinking if it was unearthing some awful stuff, then that would be a sign to go get some.
Yes. We're cleaning our room, and so we're going to do a little bit more, have a little more fun with this tapping in a moment.
Yeah.
But if you, cleaning up the room, but if I've swept some dirt under the rug, that's going to be fine. But if you are having a thought of, if I move the rug, there's barrels of toxic waste under there, you may want to wait until you've got someone there for emotional support.
Yeah.
It's not the tapping that causes more emotional distress. It's the process of looking at it.
Okay.
So, even if we weren't tapping, if we were going and talking about these things that are bothering us, we would have that emotion. So some people say, oh, I feel worse when I tap. It's like, no, it's just that when you're tapping, you're looking at those things that you're upset about and that you normally don't allow yourself to look at. As we continue tapping, that level of discomfort will go down, but we don't want to risk it. If we're already feeling really emotionally raw, that's the time that it's best to, if you can work with a practitioner, fantastic. If it's just having someone there with you and saying, hey, can you tap with me because I'm feeling kind of shaky about this. I want to move through this. I want to process it, but it'd be really helpful to have someone there for emotional support.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's good advice. Yeah.
So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and hold it. And let it go. And just allow yourself to be aware of what's going on inside. Just following your breath through your body. Noticing what you're feeling physically and what you're feeling emotionally. And maybe go ahead and rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 would be feeling awesome. Don't judge yourself harshly if the number is lower than 10. Just allow yourself to be aware of, okay, there's some stuff going on. It may be some symptoms of the thyroid issue. It may be some emotional stuff. It may be stress about work or family or things like that. Just allow yourself to be aware of where you might be feeling some discomfort, something that is reducing your awesome experience of life. Notice what thoughts, beliefs, or memories might be contributing to whatever's bothering you. And take a deep breath. Open your eyes. And just tap along with these points. And again, I showed you the basic where you just tap on those points. You guys know how to do it, but we'll have a little more fun with this here. Even though things are limiting my well-being.
Do you want me to say it? Even though.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how long to pause.
Even though things might be limiting my well-being,
I choose to love and accept myself anyway.
I choose to love and accept myself anyway.
Even though there's stuff that's limiting my well-being.
Even though there's stuff that's limiting my well-being.
I choose to love and honor myself anyway.
I choose to love and honor myself anyway.
Even though there's some stuff going on inside.
Even though there's some stuff going on inside.
That doesn't feel so good.
It doesn't feel so good.
And it stops me from feeling as awesome as possible.
And it stops me from feeling as awesome as possible.
And I'd really rather feel awesome.
I'd really rather feel awesome.
And even though there's stuff that limits that.
And even though there's stuff that limits that.
I choose to deeply and completely.
I choose to deeply and completely.
love, honor, and accept myself.
Love, honor, and accept myself.
And maybe anybody else who might be involved in these feelings.
And maybe anybody else that might be involved in these feelings.
Because I choose to be that free.
Because I choose to be that free.
Eyebrow point. All the stuff that's going on inside.
All this stuff that's going on inside.
Side of the eye. All this stuff that doesn't feel good.
All this stuff that doesn't feel good.
Under the eye. And it may be about things going on outside of me.
And it might be about things going on outside of me.
Under the nose. Whether it's inside or outside.
Whether it's inside or outside.
Under the mouth. It's limiting my well-being.
It's limiting my well-being.
Collarbone. And not only does that not feel good.
And not only does that not feel good.
Under the arm. Sometimes I get frustrated with myself for feeling that.
Sometimes I get frustrated with myself for feeling that.
Top of the head. I tell myself I should be feeling better.
I tell myself I should be feeling better.
Eyebrow point. I have a bad habit of shooting on myself.
I have a bad habit of shooting on myself.
Side of the eye. I should be feeling better.
I should be feeling better.
Under the eye. I should be doing things differently.
I should be doing things differently.
Under the nose. I shouldn't be feeling this way.
I shouldn't be feeling this way.
Under the mouth. And it's not that I'm bad or stupid.
And it's not that I'm bad or stupid.
Collarbone. It's just that I have a lot of old programming.
It's just that I have a lot of old programming.
Under the arm. Telling me how I should on myself.
Telling me how I should on myself.
Top of it. Telling me how I should be feeling.
Telling me how I should be feeling.
Eyebrow point. And what I should be doing.
And what I should be doing.
Side of the eye. Or what I should not be doing.
Or what I should not be doing.
Under the eye. All these reasons for not feeling good.
All these reasons for not feeling good.
Under the nose. And I'm giving myself permission.
And I'm giving myself permission.
Under the mouth. To process these feelings.
To process these feelings.
Collarbone. And release the old misinformation.
And release the old misinformation.
Under the arm. All this old programming I got.
All this old programming I've got.
Top of the head. About why I should feel bad.
About why I should feel bad.
Eyebrow point. Because I don't have to.
Because I don't have to.
Side of the eye. And when I'm feeling physically unwell.
And when I'm feeling physically unwell.
Under the eye. That's enough for my body to deal with.
That's enough for my body to deal with.
Under the nose. I don't also need to deal with the emotions.
I don't also need to deal with the emotions.
Under the mouth. About why it's wrong to feel upset.
About why it's wrong to feel upset.
Collarbone. Why my body should be feeling better.
Why my body should be feeling better.
Under the arm. I'm giving myself permission.
I'm giving myself permission.
Top of the head. To relax that need to feel upset.
To relax that need to feel upset.
Eyebrow point. Allowing myself to feel as good as possible.
Allowing myself to feel as good as possible.
Side of the eye. And that might just give my body the freedom.
And that might just give my body the freedom.
Under the eye. To do some self-healing.
To do some self-healing.
Under the nose. So that my body feels much better too.
So that my body feels much better too.
Under the mouth. And I choose to love myself in the process.
And I choose to love myself in the process.
Collarbone. I'm allowing myself to feel a whole lot better.
I'm allowing myself to feel a whole lot better.
Under the arm. Clearing out all the reasons why I couldn't or shouldn't.
Clearing out all the reasons why I couldn't or shouldn't.
Top of the head. And maybe part of me is afraid to feel awesome.
Maybe part of me is afraid to feel awesome.
Eyebrow point. Because people don't expect me to feel awesome.
Because people don't expect me to feel awesome.
Side of the eye. There are people who know about my issues.
There are people who know about my issues.
Under the eye. And if I show up feeling awesome.
And if I show up feeling awesome.
Under the nose. They might be very confused.
They might be very confused.
Under the mouth. I may have all kinds of reasons.
I may have all kinds of reasons.
Collarbone. For resisting feeling better.
For resisting feeling better.
Under the arm. And I love and appreciate those parts of me.
And I love and appreciate those parts of me.
Top of the head. That are doing what they believe they need to do.
That are doing what they believe they need to do.
Eyebrow point. To keep me safe.
To keep me safe.
Side of the eye. I'm just trying to protect myself.
I'm just trying to protect myself.
Under the eye. But that need to protect myself.
But that need to protect myself.
Under the nose. Maybe based on misunderstandings.
Maybe based on misunderstandings.
Under the mouth. So I'm clearing those out.
So I'm clearing those out.
Collarbone. And giving myself freedom to feel a whole lot better.
Giving myself freedom to feel a whole lot better.
Under the arm. Because it's safe to feel awesome.
Because it's safe to feel awesome.
top of the head. So I'm allowing myself to feel awesome
So I'm allowing myself to feel awesome
in body, mind, and spirit.
in body, mind, and spirit.
And take a deep breath. With your eyes closed, go ahead and follow your breath through your body again and check in. And rate yourself again on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being awesome, magnificent, whatever word you want to use. And just notice if that number has come up. And for some of you, the number will have come up. For some, it may come up dramatically. If your number isn't coming up or not coming up as much as you want, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. But it may mean that there's some other things going on that need to be addressed. And hopefully, during that process, you may have experienced some of that peeling of the layers of the onion, and you may have gotten some awareness of, oh, here's what's going on. Here's something that may be limiting my well-being. Here's a reason why I couldn't or shouldn't feel better. And then you can do more specific tapping on that. Or maybe it's something that you become aware of, that tapping isn't what you need, but it may be, the tapping has helped me see that I need to be doing more of this. I need to be drinking more water. I just realized that I haven't been drinking enough water. And now that I've gone through this process, I can see that that's something that I haven't allowed myself to do.
Yeah, thank you. I feel calmer, actually. Which, I was
the main benefit is that that we see is that calm feeling, because we're reducing that ambient stress. Even if we have been thinking, oh, I feel great, as we do some tapping, it's like, oh, I thought I felt great, but nothing's so good it can't get better.
Yeah, and maybe this is a really good tool to force us to slow down, because, I know I sometimes struggle with the I guess the discipline of meditation, because my mind races and I find it hard to focus. But the tapping it's almost like an active form of meditation, isn't it? Like it's getting into that calmer space, but you are doing something. So that might actually help those of us that struggle with that, just sort of sit and meditate.
And you don't have to concentrate. So even if we're tapping along and our mind starts to wander, the tapping is still reducing stress. It may not be as profound as if we are focused directly on it. Just like if you're vacuuming your rug, and there's a particular area that has some dirt on it, and your mind wanders and you just kind of are wandering around vacuuming. Well, there's always some level of dirt in a carpet that we're walking on. So we're still getting the carpet cleaner. We may not as effectively be hitting that spot that's as dirty, but we're still doing something good for our body, and our overall cleanliness, our overall well-being is improving. So that's, and I'm an advocate of meditation. I meditate. I try to meditate most mornings. And my mind wanders. I keep repeating, it's not that my mind wanders. It's that I come back to my breath. I'm winning if I can remember to come back to my breath. Yeah. Even if that's when the timer goes off. So, but fortunately, the tapping does not require that kind of, meditation is a discipline that takes a long time to get really good at. Tapping doesn't take that kind of practice. You're can get a lot of benefit right from the get-go.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Brad. That's really it's certainly given me a lot to think about and reflect on too. And I'm sure if this is totally new to you, if you're listening and this is totally new, do some research. Get onto the internet and find out more information about it, and just have a go. Check out, Brad, what's your YouTube channel?
Tap with Brad. On my website is tapwithbrad.com, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all Tap with Brad.
Excellent. Well, and I'll make sure I link all of that when this is released too. But you really do have a wonderful resource, an incredibly generous resource actually, of the videos that you make available, and you can sift through. I've done that in the past, sift through what am I feeling, or just some things that just look curious, and I think, oh, that's interesting. I'm just going to watch and you can watch for a couple of minutes and find another one if it doesn't resonate. And I found it a really helpful resource. So thank you.
Any tapping you do is going to be beneficial, even if it's like, oh, that has nothing to do with what's going on for me. As you're tapping along, it's like, oh, okay, but I'm still clearing stuff out.
Yeah, I wondered that actually. As a practitioner, when you're tapping with people, or making your videos and tapping for issues that maybe aren't your issues, how does that impact on you?
It's awesome. That's one of the perks of my job, is that I'm always getting benefit from the tapping. So it's always helping me be more open and enjoying life more and feeling better about myself, and which then allows me to be more open in the service that I can provide.
Yeah. Well, you look healthy. You do. You look like you look like you're getting all those physical and maybe and I'm assuming the mental benefits as well. So. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time today. Really, really appreciate it. I think it's going to really be a blessing to a whole lot of people.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this work with folks. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Let's Talk Thyroid. I would love it if you enjoyed it, if you would hit subscribe and the bell. That would be really helpful. Even more helpful, actually, would be to share it with someone else who you know has thyroid issues or you think would benefit from listening. That really is part of my mission, I suppose, is to spread the message of positive and practical approach to managing your thyroid health, so that people really kind of have more energy to get on with living their life and not just kind of trudging through each day. So spreading that word really genuinely helps other people feel better, live better, be better. The best way that you can connect with me is through my website, which is annabellebateman.com. From there, really, you'll be able to connect in all the other ways. I would love it if you would join my Facebook community group. There's lots of great support there. It's all free. That's just being with like-minded people. But from the website, you can also book a strategy session with me. So if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, not too sure where to start, then book a strategy session. There's also freebies to download and links to look at my online courses or purchase some essential oils or my cookbook. So that's really the hub, would be annabellebateman.com. But look forward to connecting with you and just being in this thyroid health journey together. Have a great day. Bye.
The information presented and discussed in this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease and should not be used as a substitute for proper advice from a qualified professional.